A worldwide shortage of microchips is turning the semiconductor industry on its head, leading to dwindling supplies of all types of electronics. As ABC 15's Mark Phillips reports, Arizona, especially the greater Phoenix area, will soon reap the benefits.
In North Phoenix, along State Route 303, the 5.6 million square foot Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company's chip plant begins to take shape. When it's open for business sometime in 2023, it will produce microchips for some of the world's biggest suppliers of computers, smartphones, automobiles, and appliances.
It's just been exciting to see how Phoenix has been transformed. Greater Phoenix area is now #1 globally for semiconductor investment.
On August 9, 2022, President Joe Biden signed the Creating Helpful Incentives to Produce Semiconductors, also known as the CHIP Act, into federal law. The statute allocates $54.2 billion to the Department of Commerce, Department of Defense, and the Department of State as an incentive to direct activities toward the research and development of semiconductors and their manufacturing facilities, as well as training a workforce.
So many of you have spent years and years calling for key investments that are made in this bill. For years you've been calling for it. You helped make it happen. You represent why we are better positioned than any other nation in the world to win the economic competition of the 21st century. You're the reason why I'm so optimistic about the future of our country. You know, the CHIPS and Science Act supercharges our efforts to make semiconductors here in America. Excuse me, those tiny computer chips, smaller than a fingertip, that are the building blocks for our modern economy, powering everything from smartphones to dishwashers, automobiles. In fact, there are as many as 3,000 semiconductors per vehicle made today. 3,000 per vehicle. America invented the semiconductors. They powered NASA's mission to the moon. Federal research and development brought down the cost of making them and built a market and an entire industry. As a result, over 30 years ago, America had 40% of the global production of these chips. And then something happened. American manufacturing, the backbone of our economy, was hollowed out. We let semiconductor manufacturing go overseas. And as a result, today, we barely produce 10% of the semiconductors, excuse me, despite being the leader in chips design as well as research.
The Open Architecture Clause allows vendors to have a competitive outlook on the market. Every Democratic senator except Bernie Sanders was in favor, besides 3 Republicans. A semiconductor is a substance, usually a crystalline solid like silicon, that allows electricity to flow through them. It has less conductivity than an element like copper. All modern electronics use them. Semiconductors can be classified as memory cards, microprocessors, standard chips, and systems on a chip. These function by analog, digital, or mixed integrated circularity. The earliest mention of this technology came in 1949 from a German engineer named Werner Jacobi. He is credited as being the inventor of the first integrated circuit. In the late 1950s, NASA and the Air Force were reliable customers during their industry's early beginnings. In 1987, a company called Microchip Technology began manufacturing microprocessors with the ability to be programmed, embedded, and controlled by radio frequency. Embeddable microcontrollers can be used to automatically control multiple products and devices at one time. The programmable non-volatile memory can store several pages of information deep that can be accessed even after power is removed. It also uses an RFID system. Radio frequency identification, or RFID, is a system that uses an electromagnetic field to transmit a tag, an identifying inventory number, then transfers digital data back to a reader. Each microchip carries a unique identification number. In 2002, Microchip began making implantable microchips the size of a grain of rice that could be embedded into humans. In May 2011, Microchip acquired California-based Microfluidic Systems, founded in 2001, which specializes in development and production of automated instruments for detecting and processing biological samples.
To read my chip, I just swipe my phone on the chip, and then I unlock and it opens up. This is a PDF, which is my COVID passport, and this means that it's always accessible for me, or for anyone else really who wants to read me.
Keylog technology acquired patents for security in wireless and remote controlled systems through a use of infrared, radio frequency, microwave transmission, and secure smart cards in 1995 from South African company Nanotech.
I'm honored to be interviewed by Alex Jones, a truth seeker, fighting for justice.
Sorry about that, man. It just help. I don't want your bag, man.
With a home of your own.
And that was a fake, right?
We paid $35,000 for it.
The ultimate goal that these people have in mind is the goal to create a one-world government run by the banking industry, run by the bankers, and they're doing it in sections. The European currency, the euro, and the European Constitution is one part of it. Now they're trying to do it in America with the North American Union, right? And they want to create a new currency called the Amero, right? And the whole agenda is to create a one-world government where everybody has an RFID chip implanted in them. All money is to be in those chips, right? There'll be no more cash. And this is getting me straight from Rockefeller himself. This is what they want to accomplish. And all money will be in your chips. And so instead of having cash, anytime you have money in your chip, they can take out whatever they want to take out whenever they want to. If they say you owe us this much money in taxes, they just deduct it out of your chip digitally.
Total control.
Total control. And if you're like me or you, and you're protesting what they're doing, they can just turn off your chip. And you have nothing. You can't buy food. You can't do anything. It's total control of the people.
And that chip's connected to a database that has your purchasing records, what you do, what you sell.
Everything is in there, you know? And so they want a one-world government controlled by them, everybody being chipped, all your money in those chips, and they control the chips, and they control people, and you become a slave. You become a serf to these people. He's the one who told me 11 months before 9/11 ever happened that there was going to be an event.
My responsibility was project leader or the senior project engineer. We began to work on the design of a microchip that, when it was completed, was 0.75 millimeters in diameter, 7 millimeters long. It was the size of 1/4 of a grain of rice. Again, I want to say that I was not a Christian and there were no Christians there. They said they wanted this to have a power source and be able to emit a signal. And they told us they wanted us to use lithium as a battery source. Lithium's used in watch batteries, it's used in heart pacemaker batteries, it's used in a lot of places.
Lithium is a chemical element with the atomic number 3. It is a pure alkali metal, which is dangerously radioactive with air and water. It must be stored under oil due to tarnishing when it's oxidized. Lithium has been found to produce a skin adverse effect called psoriasis, which causes skin cells to multiply 10 times faster. Psoriasis inflammation is itchy, scaly skin patches that get dry, crack, and bleed.
I designed into this microchip a little charging circuit that would charge that battery. This sounds like a lot of technical things coming together, but if you'll bear with me 1 minute, you'll see what God has laid out about this microchip. When we discovered that we needed to be able to charge that battery, I needed a temperature change, a change in temperature to cause current to flow through that little charging circuit that would charge the battery. So we began to investigate and find out where in the body does the temperature change the most rapidly. We spent over $1 million in taxpayer money, and when the results came back, there were The information, there was a lot of information. We divided it up amongst 3 teams and then came back together with that information. It was determined that there were 2 places in the body that were ideal for the microchip. One was just below the hairline on the forehead. Every mother checks their child's temperature right here. So we could have paid the mothers $1 million and saved I never saw a mother check their child's temperature on their ankle. Always right here. The other place was the hand, the right hand preferred, because most people are right-handed. This didn't bother me, and it didn't bother anybody else on the team. The hand seemed a good place. Nobody wanted it here. And so the design work, everything was completed. The microchip was done. You're seeing it now on some of the Discovery Channel presentations. There are people who have received it already. It is real. It's not something that's coming way down the road.
An office in Sweden is taking wearable technology to the next level by implanting microchips into their staff. Yes, that's right. The newly opened Epicenter office complex in Stockholm is offering workers the chance to be chipped under the skin of their hands. The radio frequency identification chip, which is about the size of a grain of rice, allows users to open doors, swap contact details, and use the photocopier.
It felt pretty scary, but at the same time it felt very modern, very 2015.
This innovation is a microchip implanted in the skin and designed to replace the traditional keypad for opening doors, using the copier, even buying food in the cafeteria. The summit's right out of 1984, but Jamie Yukas found willing workers in 2017.
So you can keep an eye on me?
Yes. To some, it may sound like a plot of a James Bond movie, but in River Falls, Wisconsin, employees at a vending company are going from the assembly line to front of the pack to get microchipped. Do you think this is the future?
It is the future, and we look at this as being responsible.
Todd Westby is the owner of 3 Square Market. By next week, at least 50 of his 80 employees have signed up to become bionic, using what's called a RFID transponder in a microchip meant to make the workplace experience faster and more efficient. So when you have the chip, you're just going to hold it up here and all those same options will come up? The implant, which has been FDA approved, is the size of a grain of rice and is injected under the skin between the thumb and index finger by a licensed piercer. This company is offering the chips, which cost about $300 a piece, to its employees for free. Westby says they are not GPS enabled yet.
They gave me a Bible. They told me not to read the book of Revelation. They said the book of Revelation is too hard to understand. So I waited, and I didn't read the book of Revelation for quite some time. Then one day I came to Revelation 13, verse 16. And he caused us all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead. I didn't like what I saw. I went back and looked up the word mark. I went to the Strong's Concordance, and I found that John had used 3 words for the word mark. Charagma, charicature, and charax. That was from the Greek. I looked at those words. They talked about a scratch or an etching. They talked about a lot of things. And I said, God, this isn't it. We didn't do it. He said, go to the word for 666. The word is chixastigma. In the Greek, it says to go to 4742 as a cross. The last half of the word chixastigma. And when I looked at what it says stizo, i.e. to stick, to prick, a mark incised or punched into for recognition of ownership. I thought about the little injection tool. The end of it is called an incisor. I began to weep and I began to cry, and I said, oh God, what have we done? I couldn't believe that this lined up with what we had developed.
Revelation 16:2. And the first went and poured out his vial upon the earth, And there fell a noisome and grievous sore upon the men which had the mark of the beast, and upon them which worshipped his image.
Very quickly they're going to move to this being in the hand. And I tell you as a Christian, you cannot take this. No matter what anybody says, God's word says you cannot take it. No matter what they try to talk you into, God's word says don't take it. In Revelation 14, verse 9, and the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast in his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and ever, and they have no rest day nor night, who worship the beast in his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus.